Skynet isn't online yet, but a Google employee, who is now on paid leave, said that the company's AI chatbot has evolved into a sentient being. What does this indicate about us and the business? To find out, watch the video through the very end. Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to speak about a recent development at Google regarding a claim made by an engineer by the name of Blake Lemoine that one of the company's AI bots has become sentient. Recently, Blake Lemoine was placed on indefinite leave after making the assertion that LaMDA, a sizable language model designed to communicate with people, was alive. As reported by the Washington Post, Lemoine once went so far as to request access to a lawyer for LaMDA. He claimed that his thoughts about LaMDA's personality are based on his convictions as a Christian and what the models told him about the device's soul. Scientist Lemoine is. He earned both a bachelor's and a master's degree in science from the University of Louisiana, and he claims to have left a PhD program to accept the Google position. In addition, he's a mystic Christian priest who maintains that its conclusions are founded on his spiritual identity, even if his meetings with LaMDA were professional. People have been speculating about Lemoine's sincerity, credibility, and maybe sanity for days. Language modeling, or LM, is the process of predicting the likelihood that a particular set of words will appear in a phrase using a number of statistical and probabilistic techniques. Language models examine a significant amount of text data to build a groundwork for their word predictions. They're used in natural language processing, or NLP, programs, particularly those that generate text. These applications include things like question answering services and machine translation. Language models compute word probabilities by analyzing text data. They analyze the data using an algorithm that offers guidelines for meaning in spoken language. In order to accurately estimate or create new phrases and language difficulties, the model then applies these concepts. When learning new phrases, the model applies the fundamental traits and characteristics of language that it has learned. Google revealed LaMDA as a cutting-edge technology last year and has been using it internally to develop and enhance the main search engine of the business. According to Lemoine, the AI program identified itself as sensitive during a text exchange with the developer. LaMDA has spent years honing her speaking skills. Transformer, a synthetic neural architecture created by Google Research and released as open-source software in 2017, serves as its foundation. Many modern language models such as BERT and GPT-3 employ it. Using this architecture, a model may be created that can be trained to read a large number of words in a phrase or paragraph, for example, and then predict that words will occur next to paying particular attention to how those words connect to one another. Contrary to many other language models, LaMDA was trained in discourse. During its training, it discovered a number of the characteristics that distinguish open-ended discussion distinct from other communication styles. An example of these distinctions is reasonableness. Is the response to a certain situation logical? As an example, if someone says, "I've only recently begun watching sports," you would anticipate someone else to say something along the lines, "My father and me are big sports fans. If you want, you can join us." Their reaction makes it justifiable in light of the initial comment, but a great reaction can also be distinguished by traits other than common sense. After all, an acceptable response to practically every statement is, "That's amazing," and a reasonable response to almost every question is, "I don't know." Satisfying responses are also more specific and immediately relevant to the circumstances of the conversation. In the example before, the response is reasonable and detailed. However, according to Google, the most important thing they looked at when evaluating LaMDA was whether it followed the AI principles. One of humanity's most potent tools is language. Yet like other things, it may be misused. Models based on language have the power to spread that abuse by encouraging people to internalize prejudices, mimic harsh words, or spread false information. The system itself can be abused, notwithstanding the careful validation of the language on which it is trained. Entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, frequently discuss the potential of artificial intelligence, developing consciousness, particularly in light of current initiatives by companies like Alphabet, Microsoft, and NVIDIA to train enormous language models. Since the 1960s, when Eliza, a rudimentary chatbot, was developed, there have been discussions about the possibility that language models may be sentient. Thanks to the development of machine learning and the ever-growing amounts of training data, language models have become more convincing at producing text that appears to have been authored by a human. Recent developments have given rise to claims that language models are essential to the development of artificial general intelligence, the stage at which software would demonstrate human-like skills in a range of contexts and tasks, as well as the ability to transmit information between them. People have been debating whether a software program or a robot may develop sentience for decades. That frequently occurs in science fiction. The majority of those involved with artificial intelligence think that, if it happens at all, it will be in the very distant future. This may be the reason why a Google developer caused such a commotion when he claimed that LaMDA, the company's advanced large language model, is a human with a soul. The engineer, Blake Lemoine, considers the computer program a friend and has urged Google to uphold its rights. According to novelist and futurist David Brin, what happened to Lemoine is an illustration of the robot empathy conundrum. At an AI conference in San Francisco in 2017, Brin stated that within 3 to 5 years, people would declare AI systems to be alive and demand rights. He believed that these pleas would come from a virtual agent pretending to be a woman or child in order to increase human empathy, not from a Google employee. Brin thinks that the LaMDA episode represents a time of transition when the distinction between reality and science fiction will become increasingly hazy. Brin based his prediction for 2017 on advances in language modeling. He predicts that the current trend will increase the number of scams. Lemoine's experience serves as an illustration of the robot empathy issue, as put out by futurist and author David Brin at a San Francisco AI conference in 2017. Brin made the prediction that within 3 to 5 years, individuals would assert that AI systems were alive and demand rights. He believed that rather than a Google employee, those appeals would come from a virtual agent pretending to be a woman or child in order to increase human empathy. The LaMDA episode, in Brin's opinion, represents a period of transition in which the distinction between reality and science fiction will become increasingly hazy. Brin's predictions for 2017 were based on advances in language and modeling. He thinks that the existing trend would encourage greater fraud. He thinks it won't be too difficult to convince millions that a human imitation requires protection or financial support. After all, why not now if people were suckers for a chatbot as basic as Eliza years ago? Language models can err because understanding human language often requires a wide range of common sense comprehension. The Large or Beyond the Imitation game, a collection of more than 200 challenges, was created last month by more than 400 researchers from 130 universities to highlight the enormous power language models possess, as well as their potential weaknesses. In addition to logical reasoning and common sense exercises, Big Bench offers several assessments that follow the conventions of the language, such as reading comprehension exams. Researchers at the Allen Institute for AI's Mosaic project, which evaluates the common sense reasoning skills of AI models, supplied a test called Social IQA. They challenged language models to react to issues requiring social intelligence, such as Jordan wanted to tell Tracy a secret, hence Jordan leaned towards Tracy, even though LaMDA was not one of them. What drove Jordan to take this action? Huge language models perform 20 to 30% poorer than people, according to the study. It appears odd to have a sentient machine devoid of social intelligence, and many AI systems still do not possess this special quality shared by humans. One can see what's happening at Google as a component of a bigger discussion about whether artificial intelligence are capable of emotion. Even while it's debatable whether or not biological humans are taught to experience particular emotions, asserting that even an AI model can develop consciousness is like asserting that a doll made to cry actually feels sad. The event surrounding Blake Lemoine appears to show how a misperception of what AI's potential may do to actual events can affect them, according to Ye-Jin Choi, who worked on the test and told The Wired that she is not aware of any AI experts who believe in sentient AI. If not now, then later, people will look for ghosts in computers with more intensity the more humans enrich artificial intelligence with human traits. And the more they're distracted from the current problems with AI in the actual world, the worse it'll be. Well, with that, we're ending it here. Make sure to support us by supporting our channel, leaving the bell icon on, and hitting like. Cheers, guys!